the two aggro decks that have risen to the top of the standard metagame, is there one that you think is better than the other?
I think a lot of it just depends kind of on what metagame you expect, but I think specifically in the head-to-head, I think the white deck has the edge here. The big thing being that it has the ability to go underneath. It has more one-drops, and that's the thing that the green deck has kind of struggled with. If the mono white deck is on the play and they can play their one-drops and play a few more on top of that, the green deck has trouble kind of keeping up. The green deck is really good at just playing really solid rate monsters, right? You got a 3-mana 4/4, Isika's Chariot. You have all these large creatures, but they're a little more expensive. The white deck is a little leaner, a little more vulnerable to kind of the mass removal spells that the Izzet control decks can play. But I think in the head-to-head, I would take the mono white deck.
Well, that old growth troll's doing a good job of gumming up the ground here as Eli played it on turn 3. Even with 4 mana available, he just decided to run out the 4/4 in lieu of perhaps an Isika's Chariot. Here he can go, you can double spell if you want, including a Blizzard Brawl in there. All right, the Chariot actually was taxed, wasn't it? So old growth troll, the option. This turn though, he can get the Chariot down if he'd like.
Yeah, he can.
Through Thalia.
Right, with the Sculptor of Winter. The other option was casting the Blizzard Brawl here to get the Adeline off the battlefield.
Looks like he's going to take the approach of just putting out enough power and toughness to be able to make it so that Adeline doesn't have a good attack.
Yeah.
But boy, Sebastian has the ability to run out some serious power and toughness himself. Look at this Intrepid Adversary as well.
Yeah, so he can turn it into a 4/2. Then he can attack here if he so chooses. I mean, additionally, or alternatively rather, he can just choose to keep the Adeline back, as having a 5/5 on the battlefield means you can just kind of eat the Isika's Chariot that's in play. Assuming, of course, Eli doesn't have a fight spell to get the adversary off the battlefield.
Yeah, like, did you have one in mind? Just a random fight spell? Or maybe a Blizzard Brawl, for example? Okay, so the Chariot's going to get crewed up by the brand new old growth troll, and then bang, there's Blizzard Brawl, but it's actually going to take out the adversary, which reduces the Adeline down to just a 3/4. Yeah. Wow, the thumps are coming in now. Eli Loveman is laying it on heavy. This was kind of his big finish, right? There's just a Sculptor of Winter left, but it was big.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
huge heat now.
Yeah, and the mono.
Hello.
Yeah, the mono white aggressive deck is not really great at coming back when it's behind on board. So I mean, this is going to be really tough here. Sebastian, basically his line on the last turn was just, look, I'm going to play out this adversary and really just hope you don't have a fight spell. That's my only real chance at kind of being able to stabilize in this game. But given the fact that Eli had it, I mean, at this point, I mean, Eli's the one attacking here. He's got the one with the Chariot. That Chariot's made 3/2/2 tokens. It's going to make another one next turn.
Looks like Pozzo's decided that he can survive the next turn, and since he can, that'll give him another activation of the Intrepid Adversary for that triggered ability, and that would probably shore up the game. The question is just, or shore up the board, I should say. The question is just, is he going to have enough life total to play with after this attack? Because he's taking a much lighter route here by casting the Aspirant.
Yeah, and at this point, given that Eli doesn't have another way to get this Adeline off the battlefield, you might see him just take a much more aggressive line here and potentially attack with everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe play Sculptor of Winter, land Sculptor of Winter, tap both of the Sculptors, crew the Chariot, activate Faceless Haven, and just attack with everything, knowing that the Adeline's going to eat at least one of these creatures.
Doesn't seem bad to me, Paul. Like, if you look at it, right, there's Thalia as a 2/1 first strike. Okay, she gets to block a cat or a Sculptor or whatever smaller creature. But beyond that, the blockers aren't there. They're just 1/1s.
Are we getting in?
What Loveman does. No, he's going to pass the turn.
Okay.
And that's great news for Pozzo. It means that his plan worked.
Yeah, and
now he gets to play adversary with 2 kickers.
Yeah, and so now the entire team gets +2/+2.
Yes.
Now we're looking at Thalia with First Strike, which can also eat these 4/4s.
That window has closed for Eli Loveman, as you know, he had the upper hand there, didn't want to throw away too much board presence just to get damage in. But boy, oh boy, that is exactly the window that Pozzo needed. And take a look at this. 5 powered First Striker and 8/7? Like, good luck with your fight spell now.
Yeah, I mean, if Eli can find a fight spell, right, it would still be good if you can kill that adversary. That would dramatically reduce the power that Pozzo's representing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, geez, what a draw here. Clarion
Unbelievable.
Spirit.
Into Luminarch Aspirant that he had left over from last turn. So that'll get him a token, a 3/3 flyer, by the way, and he can even make it a 4/4 if he wants.
Right, and now, you know, we were kind of looking at somewhat of a stalemate, right? It's just a question of whether, it was just a question of when Pozzo decided to attack. But now that you got this evasive creature, you can at least know for sure that you're going to have that to attack with.
And it looks like he wants to protect his intrepid adversary. And with a land off the top, I don't think that there's going to be a window for Eli to even be able to deal with it at this point.
Yeah, especially if you turn the adversary into the key number here is maybe making it into a 6 toughness creature. Then then the 4 power creatures on Eli's side cannot kill the adversary, even if you draw a Blizzard Brawl. Now, if Eli's playing Inscription as well in his main, most decks do typically play 2 copies of that card. Then you might want to continue putting counters onto the Intrepid adversary so that you don't it doesn't die to that fight spell.
And I don't see any in his list.
I think they might be in a sideboard. Yeah.
Okay, well, Asika's Chariot's going to get fired up, but it's going to go into its doom here. But I guess Loveman figures, well, I'm just going to cast this other one anyway, so I may as well get a cat token out of the deal.
Right. Pozzo could be tempted to just block with the adversary to gain some life, but then, of course, that leaves you vulnerable to a Blizzard Brawl.
Mm-hmm.
So you can also choose to just block with Thalia here, as it has First Strike. That seems like the safest block, especially given that he knows that Eli does not have Inscription of Abundance in his deck.
Yep, and there's the follow-up Chariot, and now Pozzo goes, okay, I get it. You just wanted to play the other one anyway. Land off the top here, not great for Pozzo, but he's so far ahead as far as power and toughness goes, and that's saying a lot. I mean, he's playing against a mono green deck with 3 mana 4/4s.
Yeah, I mean, every single turn, Sebastian can put 2 additional counters on something here. And I think Sebastian at this point is just looking at the board and thinking, all right, I mean, obviously this flyer is an attack, but do I have any other good attacks here?
Mm-hmm. And you know, where do these counters go? Do you just start piling them up on the flyer? I think it feels like it's about that time, right?
Yeah.
Like the shields are nicely up here for Pozzo. And he can keep back a whole bunch of blockers and start getting in for some pretty serious amount of damage. The fact that he's firing up the Faithless Havens, though, does make me think that he's getting ready to rumble.
Oh, man. He just loves putting counters up on that adversary.
Yeah, I think he figures if he ever connects with it, his life total will be so high, it'll buy him like 3 turns.
Right. I think he wants to get the adversary big enough to the point where after Eli blocks, it'll still potentially survive a fight spell, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the case if you make it into, if you can give it 10 toughness, you can block a 4 power creature, and even with a Blizzard Brawl, that'll be 9 damage total.
Okay, he ended up attacking with both Faceless Havens. And then the attacking creature from Adeline as well as a 3/3 Spirit in the air. And this is a bit of an attrition situation here for Eli Loveman. He just needs to try to get as much of this stuff off the board as possible, especially considering that he is actually being attacked for lethal here.
Yeah. One of the cards that you have to think about if you're on Eli's side is Ranger class. That could be the type of card that you need to kind of get back into this here.
Interesting. He's
All
going to
right.
make sure to use up his mana appropriately here. He finds a Kazandu Mammoth.
And that won't get it done.
Nope. Thalia also redundant here. A legendary creature. Sebastian's just going to have to keep it in hand for now.
Yeah, and Eli's got a really annoying kind of crew of creatures on the ground. It's really not ideal to attack on the ground here, as Eli can set up a lot of good double blocks. So maybe it's
Yeah.
time to just start piling on counters onto this this flyer here.
Yeah,
See if we.
Sebastian cashed in his lands for a bunch of creatures on the ground, but now the attack doesn't look as good. So yeah, he's just going to go all to the skies here. One of the 3/3 attacker ends up getting eaten, but he didn't have a choice in the matter. Another Asika's Chariot. He can take one more hit in the air here, Paul, but otherwise he's looking at death.
You can make a 4/4 now at least. That's kind of cool. Probably not going to be enough.
Thalia once again takes out a Chariot that was doomed from the get-go. Snow-covered plains off the top here for Pozzo. Maybe a quick creature count, right? Just because pretty much everything's face up at this point, just to make sure you don't have a lethal attack. Otherwise, throw the counters on a flyer and get in there.
Yeah, and given that you don't have a lethal attack, you might want to. Okay. I was actually wondering if you wanted to at least put one more counter on the flyer
Yeah,
so
then
that
your
you don't die
3-power
next
guy.
turn.
Yeah.
So because if Eli draws a Blizzard Brawl, he would kill the flyer. Although, of course, if Eli's using a Blizzard Brawl on that flying token, I mean, you're probably looking okay. But it should probably ensure that ensure the win, right? Because there will be nothing that Eli can draw that can get that flyer off the battlefield.
Okay, so easy block on the 3/3 kind of forced attacker, but Thalia Guardian of Thraben is also getting into the red zone here. Oops, did it get through? Because then he's dead. Yeah, he didn't block it for some reason, and then that was first strike damage. Then regular strike from the 5/5 in the air would have sealed the deal. So probably no outs there for Loveman anyway, but
Yeah.
that didn't go the way he wanted. I think he misclicked or something on that Thalia.
Right. Yeah.
So it goes. Game number 2 incoming. Again, I don't think that Eli had any outs at that point.
Right. And I mean, Eli had a fantastic start too, right? I mean, that, he had the ramp into the Chariot, but he just didn't have enough removal. I mean, oftentimes you see up to 6 fight spells, and Eli, it looks like he's kind of skewing his deck more so that his deck is a little more favorable against the Izzet control decks, and choosing not to play a card like Inscription and instead playing more action instead. But certainly could have used those effects in this matchup because that Intrepid Adversary is what won him that game.
Right. Boy, that second one, because remember the first one came down and stabilized him, but it died. And then he got that second one, and he made that really critical play where he recognized that he could get away with just casting Luminarch Aspirin and with an extra land in hand, he knew that he could pay that extra cost on the adversary twice the next turn,
Right.
and he could survive to that point. And that was the difference. I mean, that was huge. The extra counter to all of his creatures really made a big difference.
Really interesting sideboard strategy here from Eli. Not bringing in any number of Tajuro Blightblades, which you would think is a pretty solid card in this matchup. It's a 1-drop, and it's does a good job of blocking. But maybe if you're on the play, it's not as important. There is a pretty good chance that you might see the Blightblades being brought in when you're on the draw.
All right, well, let's get game number 2 underway here between Eli Loveman and Sebastian Pozzo. Mono green versus mono white. So far, mono white has ruled the day. Brutal Cathar off the top of the library joins 2 other copies of Brutal Cathar. And you can see that Sebastian just wants to kind of overload Eli's fight spells, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got to be just nothing here from Eli on turn 3. Only the fight spells.
Yeah, he's got Devouring Tendrils and Blizzard Brawl to go with 2 lands. Portable Hole. Grab the 2/2 there. And
Oh,
whoa, good timing for an Asika's
not
Chariot.
bad.
Land into Chariot there from Loveman. That is what you want to see off the top of the library. No land here. And it looks like Skyclave Apparition is just going to sort of nip this in the bud right away.
Yeah, you can go Apparition on the Chariot. The Adeline doesn't have a great attack here, so probably not getting in this turn, as Eli can queue up a double block, and the Adeline will only be a 3/4 here.
So Apparition, yeah, deals, at least for now, with the Chariot. It's going to be gone, but you know,
Wow.
we've seen it before. What did he find?
That was also a really good draw. So now he
Gee.
drew a creature that not only he can draw a card with later, but now he has a fight spell to get this Adeline or Skyclave Apparition off the battlefield. I mean, this makes sense. You get another 4/4 here. So even
Right.
if Pozzo has a way to eat one of your creatures, you still have a giant creature to get in the way of the Adeline that's in play.
Still, Brutal Cathar. This card can do a lot of work, and he's got triple Brutal Cathar in hand. Even if the first one doesn't end up sticking.
Yeah.
And he's going to take the safe route here, too.
Great token killer.
Yeah, really awesome. Now, if this Brutal Cathar dies, it's like, sure. 2 for 1 in my favor. Thank you very much. Tracker's going to get in for 4. Down to 16 goes Pozzo. And finally, a land off the top here. It is also night, which means that the Brutal Cathar turns into Moonrage Brute.
Yeah, so now Pozzo can go Clarion Spirit, or Aspirate, and then flip the Moonrage Brute back into Brutal Cathar and eat that Briar. Not the tracker, probably a token. So this is a free token here for Pozzo to eat with the flipped Brutal Cathar here, that Moonrage Brute that you see.
Wow. Yeah, this deck is excellent at flipping that back with so many cheap spells. You know, it can do it for just 2 mana, 3 mana quite easily. In this case, it's going to take 4, but yowza. This one's really slipping away here from Loveman. You know, he's kind of got himself in a bit of a defensive stance, but he's still way behind. Pozzo's deciding if he can actually get a cheeky attack in with this Adeline here.
Yeah, and you know, normally when you say, hey, mono green versus mono white, you expect the green deck to be the one with the bigger creatures.
Seriously,
that has just not been the case here. You know, Adeline matches up to any green creature that you can throw at turn 3. I mean, it's basically a 3-mana 5/4, 4/4. Not only that, all the extra removal spells that you have access to. In addition, you have cards like the Luminarch Aspirant and the Intrepid Adversary, which can grow your team.
And this is just getting brutal here for Eli Loveman. He has to use his removal spell just to kill the best thing that he actually can kill, which is Luminarch Aspirant, but that is not the name of the game here. The Brutal Cathar on the battlefield is the problem. And that's not going to be the only one.
Land was an incredible draw here from Pozzo. That's 2 spirits this turn now.
Oh gosh, yeah.
As he's going to go spirit into Cathar.
Look at Adeline's in 9/5 now.
So if you take the tracker, you can attack with the Adeline, and the only good block Eli would have would be a double block here.
To kill both and then take a ton, yeah.
Token probably gets in as well.
The flyer, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Perhaps a forced issue here, but if Loveman double blocks Adeline, he's going to have no creatures in hand on the board and just a Ranger class. And this one has really slipped away from Loveman. He has gotten ran over here by Sebastian Pozzo. Ranger class way too little, way too late. And there's even a replacement Adeline off the top just because, you know, when it rains, it pours.
Yeah, now Pozzo basically just kind of doing some math here. I mean, the thing is, Eli's still sitting at 20. So you don't want to make any attacks where you basically just lose your creatures to the threat of the Faceless Haven activation here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think Sebastian's in a particular rush here. We'll see what he does. Just going to attack with the flyers. And interestingly, Pozzo can just pass the turn into knight here, Paul. That's what he did.
Wow. Yeah.
Ugh.
And now if he draws a 2-drop, anything a 2-drop or less, or a land, he can double spell next turn. So really, really great setup here by Pozzo.
He just doesn't want to see a 3. It's like every other card in his deck.
And, you know, to be fair, after sideboard, his deck is basically 25% 3-drop, so there's a good chance he draws a 3 here. But
yeah, and then he'll have just another really good spell in his hand. Oh no.
Yeah, I know it's a tough life.
Oh, there's Monk of the Open Hand. That's a 1. The problem is there's not enough stuff on the other side. I mean, these Moonrage brutes might just be better anyway, right?
Just like turn them sideways. Can you please play more creatures so I can kill all of them?
Right.
Thank you.
This is
really appreciate that.
Yeah,
really
I want to trade for more than your Faceless Haven, please.
Yeah. You know, so this Inscription of Abundance will do some work, right? You'll be able to kill a creature, gain some life, you know, maybe target the Clarion Spirit here or something, but it's just not going to be enough. I mean, with this particular version of Mono White, with the Clarion Spirits, I mean, the green deck's just going to have so much trouble with all these flying tokens.
Right. They can pick off a few key blockers and then push through lethal damage with their fight spells. They are not equipped to deal with a board like this.
Now, I imagine you're going to see Eli kill the Moonrage Brute that has the tracker on it.
Yeah.
At the cost of 3 life.
And then all the triggers resolve, including an 11-4 currently. And then that's just past the turn back after the double spell. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, like how can Eli even just come back from this? I mean, these flyers by themselves. Yeah.
He even had a decent hand, Werewolf Pack Leader and a Seeker's Chariot. Not even close to good enough